Hello, my name is Chloe. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing to you my worst books of 2020. A lot of people haven't been doing these videos. I'm going to continue doing it. I won't talk too much about why people aren't, whatever. We're still doing it on this channel. I am also just not in a good mood today for some reason, so I'm probably going to be more negative than usual. I'm going to try and be positive in this negative video. Also, I don't want to have to say it, but I guess I'm going to have to. If any of these books are your favourite books, this is not a personal attack on you. This is my opinion. My opinion isn't the most educated. I am fully aware that I might not have the cleverest things to say about this book, but at the same time, I am entitled to my own opinion. You are entitled to your own opinion. If we disagree on a book, it doesn't mean we have to disagree on anything else. So let's just go into this video. I have 7 books to talk about, which sounds very specific. I didn't actually have that many books that I fully hated this year. I read 212, so 7 that I really didn't like is a pretty good number. These aren't in any particular order either. I didn't want to rate the worst, but in my opinion, these were the worst. The first one I have to talk about is The Truth and Lies of Ella Black by Emily Barr. So my main issue with this was that Goodreads completely spoiled it for me. If you have any interest in reading this book, despite what I say now, do not read Goodreads. There is a spoiler in the Goodreads description for something that happens like halfway through the book, so it's just a real letdown. I do not know what the blurb of the finished copy says, because I did actually have an ARC copy, so it might spoil it on there, I'm not sure, but yeah, just don't read Goodreads. I don't want to say too much about this, but we follow Ella, who is one day whisked away from school by her parents to Rio with no explanation why, and at the same time she's really struggling with her personality. She has this separate part of her personality which she calls Bella, meaning bad Ella, and she's a teenager struggling to kind of understand who she is. I'm not sure the best way to explain it, but that's all I can think of without spoiling anything. So for me, this book was just so disappointing. The start was really intriguing, but it just didn't carry on through the story. The full plot was actually just a little bit silly, and it was a teenager having a massive tantrum about a bit of a personal discovery. Everything was completely out of proportion. First of all, just going to Rio to avoid something is out of proportion anyway. But yeah, it was just so unrealistic, I think. Next, I have The Price Guide to the Occult by Leslie Walton. So this book is about the Blackburn family who live on Anathema Island. And that's pretty much all I can think to tell you, apart from the fact it follows teenager Noor Blackburn. The rest of the plot is completely lost to me. It's a very short book and I cannot tell you what it's about. Overall, this book just didn't make that much sense to me. The plot made no sense, and even though I only read it in October, I can't tell you about it. There's nothing in my head, apart from the fact the ending was an absolute flop. There were also far too many mentions, in my opinion, of self-harm that did not add to the plot at all, did not add to the character development. It was just constant mentionings. I want to say this book was less than 250 pages, and I would easily say there are about 15 mentions of self-harm. So yeah, it just got to the point where it was completely unnecessary and was actually detracting from the story. Yeah, I just didn't like this book. A lot of this video is going to be me saying I just didn't like this. Next, we have The Wayward Girls by Amanda Mason. So nobody can fault me for trying with this book. I had the e-arc that I DNF 40% the way through, and then I actually found an audiobook on my local library app, so I decided to give it another go just in case it was the reading it on a Kindle that didn't appeal to me. But yeah, I still hated it. So this is about Lucy, who is asked to go back to her and get re-involved with her old family home because there are a group of strangers who are trying to uncover what happened there. So my issue with this is that I still have no idea what happened. There was a reveal, but I remember it being so stupid that I didn't care for it, and I have blanked it from my memory. So Was this place haunted? Was a child possessed? I still would not be able to tell you. The ending or the reveal was just very, very flat, and I wish I wouldn't have given this another go. I wish I would have stuck at a DNF and been left wondering. I would definitely say that it does have good reviews. Some people did love this book, but I was just confused. It's also a dual timeline, and that really made me struggle because I couldn't work out what parts were memories, what parts were them actually back in the past, what parts were in the past but somebody was reading the works of a guy from the future talking about the past. I was very muddled. Next we have Cowboys Don't Cry by Anne McAllister. So this year I discovered my love for cowboy romances. 10 points to whoever guesses why. But yeah, decided that it's something I do enjoy reading. I can accept that sometimes they're not the best written things, but you know, I just have a good time with them. This book, however, I did not have a good time with. This is about Tanner, who has agreed to help out on a ranch and help run the ranch, but then we meet Maggie, who is a city school teacher who is actually now the new owner, and a lot of this is Tanner having an objection to somebody from the city coming in and trying to run a ranch. It was branded as a hate to love, but there was really no foundation for any emotions between these characters. There just happened to be emotions there with no basis whatsoever, which was my main problem with it. But I also really didn't like the pacing of this book and how time worked. So there were several times I'd be reading and I wouldn't know whether an hour had passed or a month had passed in this story, and it made no sense either way. So yeah, it was just a very, in my opinion, poorly constructed story. Next, we have a potentially controversial one, and that is The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. This was an adult thriller, and I'm not really sure what to tell you about the plot that won't completely spoil it. Let's just say it's a scorned wife kind of story. Trying to explain the concept of this would spoil the whole thing, so I'm not going to try. My issue was that the big reveal happened about 100 pages in, and I did not feel like anything that happened after that had much impact at all. I actually can't remember anything that happened after that. It all sort of loops back to that reveal, and it wasn't thrilling for a thriller. I know it was a domestic thriller and I don't have that much understanding of reading domestic thrillers, but I just didn't care for what happened. Nearly done. Number 6 is Picture Me Gone by Meg Rosoff. I think the problem with this is that the blurb is not the story. So the blurb tells us about Mila, who has some sort of sixth sense, can hear people's thoughts, and she knows whether somebody is cheating on their wife, she knows whether somebody is pregnant, she knows whether somebody is an alcoholic. This isn't true for the story at all. I do not remember a time where that played into the story. This is just a normal child, and it's a story of her and her dad going on a road trip around America when her dad's best friend has gone missing. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It wasn't what it said it was, is my problem with the low rating. Also, the cover of this screams YA to me, but the content was very not. It was very, very juvenile. And when you click on Goodreads, it does say YA. And I, being somebody who reads YA predominantly and a lot of YA thrillers, if I picked this up thinking it was YA, I would have been, well, very disappointed, as I was with this rating. I did think it was a YA, and it says it's a YA, but it was very, very young. Like I said, it's not that it wasn't what I wanted it to be. This book isn't what it said it was, which is why I've given it a low rating. I actually didn't enjoy what I read of the story anyway, which helps give it a low rating. And finally, the most controversial in this list, I think, is The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. So this is the story of Lo, who is a travel journalist, and she sets off on a cruise to the Northern Lights. It's a boutique cruise ship. There's not many people on board. It's their first sailing. I know there's a word for that, which I can't think of at all. But on her first night, Lo, our main character, Lo doesn't sound right now, but I guess it is woken up to the screams of somebody being thrown overboard. But when everything is investigated, there are no guests and no members of the crew that are missing. So who was thrown overboard? Lo has met somebody who was in cabin 10. She's met a woman, but nobody knows who this woman is. Apparently she never existed. For me, this book was just so boring. I wasn't engaged with the plot at all. I didn't care. I actually felt like it was a little predictable. Like I didn't guess it right. I had some ideas what had happened. I didn't guess the exact, but I wasn't far off. And I just didn't care. When we did find out, I wasn't bothered. Parts of it did feel very over dramatic, particularly towards the end. And I didn't enjoy it. So I'm going to keep it brief. That is all from me. I don't want to go too much into these books because I'm sure somebody will have an issue with them. So let's just keep it short. What were your worst books of the year? Please do let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. But on that note, that's all I have to say today. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.